Hey everyone, the life of a species on our planet consists of random events. Some get lucky while others encounter tragic incidents. Unfortunately, this is how life works, though there are some exemptions. The stars of our videos today are animals of different kinds, big and small, domestic and even wild. All of the animals in our story today share a sad story and seemed as if they would probably not be destined to live another day. But some caring people decided to change their destiny. Some of these people wanted to help and turn the most desperate animals in the world into the luckiest and most delighted. Today, we will tell you the most impressive stories of animal rescues that will melt your heart. Let's start! Before we move on, I have a little challenge for you that'll take just about 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal, leave us a like on this video, smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you'll get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it, it really works! So in this clip we have a killer whale that has no name, because what you see is a wild animal that got into an unusual incident. This black and white creature got trapped between the rocks at low tide. When the water level fell and the rocks were exposed, it put the animal's life in danger. This unusual incident happened in July 2015, off the coast of British Columbia. People found the killer whale by chance and the news of the animal in danger circulated quickly, and soon after a big crowd of locals got together on the coast. It was not a piece of cake to carry the terrified animals since no one had the equipment capable of lifting a 3-ton mammal. People had no option but to wait and just try to lessen the distress of the whale as much as they could. At first, the crowd of onlookers was told to leave the poor animal. Then, volunteers decided to wrap the body of a killer whale with a damp fabric and then begin to splash water on it. Spectators say that when the whale felt the water dampening its body, it let out a groan of relief. It was impossible to mistake it for other feelings. This occurrence went on for 8 hours, and all through this time people worked diligently together, and by the end all their hard work paid off. When the water levels began to rise again, the killer whale was able to return into the sea, and this became a valuable reward for all of those that were involved in the rescue. So in this clip we have a leopard. This animal may not look completely thankful, but that's because it probably hasn't understood what happened to it yet. It's hard to predict exactly why this mighty cat ended up at the bottom of a 6-meter hole filled with cold water. But one thing that was obvious was the animal was left there unintentionally. The hole was too deep for the leopard to just simply leap out of. The steep walls made it impossible to climb out of. The predator was lucky in one aspect. It was born a leopard, so it had the innate ability to swim. Although the animal kept on swimming, it was gradually losing its power and could not last more time in the water. Luckily, some people came to the rescue and the predator was found by chance. These people asked the wild animal rescue team for help. However, the rescue team couldn't help the leopard immediately. First, a log was thrown into the water. The rescuers wanted the leopard to climb on it so they could pull it. Unfortunately, the timber was unstable. Finally, people came up with the idea of lowering the cage down, and it turned out to be successful. They didn't have to ask the leopard twice. It jumped in on the moment that it saw the cage, and was more than happy to get away from the water. After just a couple of hours, the rescue animal was sent back into the wild. Whenever experts find an animal in trouble, they evaluate its condition and health on a scale of 1 to 10. This horse named Giselle was given the lowest score, which means that it was in really serious danger. Giselle was alarmingly malnourished. Her bones were clearly seen under its mud-covered hind that you could easily count all of her ribs. The horse could hardly stand, and it was obvious that it was faltering to take another step. Adding to injury, the horse's halter was on its muzzle for too long, and it was put too tightly and became partly integrated into her skin. The poor horse must have not been fed properly for months, and it's painful to even think of what the horse had to suffer before it was finally rescued by some animal rights activists. It took some time to help the poor animal recover. Giselle's condition was so bad that experts were in doubt to feed her. It was possible that her digestive system could have not handled the food.
We'll start to refeed her slowly. We won't give her grain right away. She'll get hay. She'll have free access to water.
She weighed as little as 306 kilograms, while a healthy horse of this size normally weighs about 500 if not more. Giselle was stuck in a depressing situation for a while. However, water, nutritious food, medical care, and safe shelter did wonders for Giselle. She exhibited a strong will to survive, and after a couple of months, you could barely recognize her. She is no longer malnourished or distressed. Giselle even showed her real character to her rescuers. Experts say Giselle is expressive and shows very good behavior. Some think that she's even the most well-behaved horse in the stable. In this clip we have a dog named Boonrod. Do not be confused by the terrified look of this good boy. What you're looking at is perhaps the bravest dog on the planet. It's just hard to stay calm when there's so many strangers around you, and you suffered from perhaps the biggest shock of your life. This story happened about a year ago when one of the employees of this oil rig went outside to take a break and to look at the calming waves. The last thing that he expected to see was a dog, and unfortunately, he spotted this exhausted dog that was clinging onto the metal beams to escape from the waves. It was difficult for the employee to believe with his own eyes. After all, the oil rig was located 220 kilometers off the coast of Thailand. However, this was a real dog. Without thinking twice, the workers joined forces to lift the animal up. The dog was soaked with water and looked completely exhausted. As soon as employees gave her food, she immediately took it. So it became clear that the dog had been starving. Right after the rescue, the animal was put into the oil tanker and brought back to land. It is hard to determine how the dog ended up in the middle of the sea. She must have been pushed onto the sea by the waves and then had no choice but to stay afloat. The rig workers named the dog Boonrod, a Thai word that means survivor. The dog no longer has to worry about where to live, because one of the rescuers declared that he would adopt the dog. So in this clip we have a giraffe. Just by looking at its dense metal ring with its sharp edges, it's hard to envision what harm it could bring once it's put onto an animal. It's even more dreadful to imagine that this is not just some random piece of metal found in the junkyard. This is a ring that animal rights activists removed from a live wild giraffe. This is a challenging task, even for animal rights experts. A giraffe is a huge animal that weighs up to 800 kilograms. First, the rescuers had the task of capturing the animal. The only safe way to remove the ring was to completely remove it from the neck while holding the animal still. This task required the efforts of a team consisting of more than 10 people. Some of them had to confine the giraffe's neck, while others kept the leg unmovable. One man was armed with a circular saw and had to cut the iron neatly and swiftly as possible, and although the giraffe was flustered with everything that it was experiencing, the procedure was done triumphantly. And in addition, people responded just in time before the iron grabbed harder into the skin, which would have caused serious, irreversible damage. It's time to get to the nitty-gritty of what you really want to see. Coming up next, we have a tigress named Asha. When she was found by animal rights activists, it was hard to look at her without pity. The 9-month-old Bengali tiger was only the size of a 3-month-old cub. Its whole body was filled with injury and bald spots. Asha contracted parasites, and she also shared a cage with another dominant tiger who often bit her. Asha was part of a traveling circus, but the animal activists could not abandon Asha in that miserable condition. The tigress was taken to a vet who ordered all sorts of medication for her. And then she was sent to a wildlife rescue and educational center where they put her in a separate cage with ample space. After 8 weeks, her fur began to grow back on the bald area, though full recovery took a longer time. Today, Asha is a healthy, well-taken care of tigress. She even has another tiger friend. The only reminder of her heartbreaking experience is her size. She is still 2 to 3 times smaller than other tigers of her age. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them on your phone. Make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. And next up we have Jackson. If we asked you, who's a man's best friend? For sure almost all of you would say it's a dog in a heartbeat. With their energetic barking, a wagging tail, a wet nose, and innocent eyes, they're more than enough to make someone's heart melt. When Hayden Howard from Indiana first saw some unusual marks on her dog's body, she wasn't totally anxious. The dog, an English Mastiff named Jackson, spent most of his time outdoors. The marks, she thought, could just be some insect bites, but consistently, there were more and more of them. The thick fur made it difficult to see the wounds. Jackson just acted normally, and yet, the owner eventually made up her mind to bring the dog to the vet. When the vet shaved the dog's fur and meticulously examined his body, his eyes filled with tears. All this time, Jackson's body was saturated with a huge number of metal pellets. These marks were not caused by insects, but by the weapon of a cruel person. The wounds covered the dog's whole body, and one was close to Jackson's eye, so it was only a miracle that he didn't become blind. The specialist removed 27 pellets from Jackson's skin. The vet believed that there was probably twice the number of pellets that were actually shot at Jackson. Although it wasn't a real gun, it didn't mean that it couldn't have caused a fatal accident. Jackson was in awful pain. In the end, the police investigated the case, and the details were confidential. But most likely, the dog was tortured by Howard's neighbor. Anyways, Jackson's suffering finally came to an end, and he was gradually able to heal completely. Last but not least, Be a pal and share this video, and we will be eternally grateful. And who knows, maybe we'll send you a freebie one of these days just for helping us out.